Ladies and gentle nerds, hello and welcome to TownHall Heroes episode number 123. I'm Solid Jake, we've got Dunk, KO, pretty much becoming the new regular crew here. And, you know, it feels kind of like a light news week, but at the same time, it also feels like a jam-packed week just because of the ridiculous amount of news we've been getting lately. I mean, Blizzard's been nonstop. We've got a lot to talk about. The Heroes Brawl has finally been put on the PTR after it being announced at BlizzCon as the arena mode. So we've got our hands on that and a lot more to talk about. But what I want to talk about is KO. Dunk Train, you don't get to introduce yourself first. I'm going straight to KO. Oh! I don't even know what I just said, and you guys are both muted, so I'm just going to keep rambling.
Wow. Okay. Fix that.
What's up, KO?
Hey, what's going on? You were just like, I want to talk about KO today. I'm just like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, cool. Episode 123. I like it. Good to be here as always. Love hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
We should have done a really bad MS Paint change of the name from Town Hall Heroes to Town Brawl Heroes to commemorate the availability of Heroes Brawl.
Gosh.
I just realized how good of an opportunity that was that we just missed.
You know, I'm kind of glad we didn't do that because I'm just going to say it right here. I was thinking about doing the Town Hall Brawl, which would be like a special event where it's all about Heroes Brawl. But the only reason I haven't made any concrete plans is currently there's no ob slots when you make custom games for the Brawl. So
Wow.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
Yeah, so
They like went out of their way to not have obs. They're like, please don't run tournaments for Brawl.
well, I mean, I don't know if that's logic or if there's like maybe it's when you throw more players into it, maybe for whatever reason it's more intensive. I have no idea. But anyways, Dunkus, what's new, man?
Not much new here. I'm just kind of chilling, waiting for everything to really ramp up for opening week in BlizzCon. Can't wait for that stuff to start happening. I think everyone right now, it's kind of in the period of time where everyone's kind of like holding their breath. Like,
Yeah.
all the esports stuff is about to start happening. It's about to get super serious, and it's kind of like the calm before that right now.
The calm before the heroes.
When I start thinking about announcements, that's when I get so hyped. That's when the hype really hits me. I just imagine, like, what are the possibilities? Because, you know, where does Heroes go? You know, from here, and like, what is like the bomb that they're gonna drop? That's gonna be like the jaw dropper for Heroes. It's interesting to think about this stuff.
So
It's
KL,
crazy.
go ahead, Dunk.
Well, I was just going to say it's crazy that, like, the week where they reveal Samuro and let us play Brawl feels like we're still holding our breath for more. Like, that seems insane.
Yeah, so I want to bring
Yeah.
KO up to speed with what I said last week, where I'm at the point where I'm almost like they don't have announcements for BlizzCon. There's been so much. Like, I feel like a spoiled kid where there's just been this obscene amount of content on all fronts, from Heroes to, you know, to StarCraft maps to the Heroes Brawl to the MVP system. There's just been so much. And the Heroes Brawl is like, it's polished. I guess that's our first talking point. I guess it's not our first talking point, but it is now. And it's just like, I love the fact that they have that one loading screen. You know, it takes a while for a lot of people's computers. You get past that loading screen and you get to the select, and then that goes from one round to the next, and it just all feels so smooth for me. And the crowd cheering and the atmosphere, the whole thing, it just feels good.
Yeah, it's beautifully done, and it, like you said, it feels polished. It's everything we wanted, I think, out of arena mode. You know, being in the game here with this Brawl title, but it's just a ton of fun, and it's going to encourage players to play a lot of characters that are out of their comfort zone without having to risk sort of going into a real match and getting everybody to flame them because they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So I love that aspect, that it's like this nice soft way to like push you a little bit out of your comfort zone and be like, hey, you got Murky like as an option. Why not give him a shot? And then all of a sudden you get to mess around. And like you screw up horribly and you die a bunch, well, the round's over in like 5 minutes anyways, and you get another round. It's not like the game even ends. So that's a really cool thing, and it's going to be a great tool for just like bringing the player base up in terms of the general skill level.
I don't know about improving the skill level from Brawl, but
okay, maybe that's a bit of a stretch.
Well, I will say it's a nice way to play with people who aren't on your skill level,
Yes.
which is probably a problem that KO and I both had. You know, you want to introduce your friends to heroes or something,
Right.
and like, I don't really want to play a real game with you, bro. Like, I'd like to play heroes with you, but you got to learn on your own. Like,
Right.
and now Brawl, at least you can just hop in and play some deathmatch type stuff or crazy objectives, and like, that's a nice way to bridge the gap.
You know,
I gotta say, as a streamer too, it's just like a really fun thing to be able to do with the community, because it's something you just hop in there and it's just mayhem, it's chaos, it's like a great time for everybody involved, and good times.
I'm really excited to actually stream some Brawl. I haven't jumped into that yet. I haven't streamed in a while, so apologies for all the nerds that are mad at me for that. But it's on my list. It's on my list. Wrapping up some other stuff and playing a little bit too much WoW. I'll be honest, but
hey, we all are, man. Let's be honest.
It's awful. Anyways. Yeah, no. So in terms of aesthetic, I think the other big thing is just when you queue up to a Brawl, you don't know if you're going to get a weird rule set, and like that, like just one more. Maybe I get an all Samurai game or something. And last night I was queuing and I just wanted to get a single hero game. I was just like, I haven't had it yet. I really want one before I go to bed. And my wife was really mad at me because I was down here for a few hours longer than expected, and I got the all murky game. And oh my goodness,
it's a dream.
When there's 10 marches going, everyone went march, not a single person went octogram, and it was just so funny, but at the same time insanely tactical. Like everybody ran out the gates and used their murlocs except me, because I'm like, all right, I want to save this to zone them away, right? This is going to allow us to just go to town, and we're all able to just drop our pufferfish and get a big lead on the punishers. But anyways, there's a lot of fun stuff with it. It's been way too much fun. I've played
some things are a little bit weird though. Let's talk a little bit about the side of it that is, you don't have talents, right? So some characters definitely function very strangely when they don't have the normal kit,
or just badly.
One game, or badly, just straight up not good. I mean, I was playing one game where I had Sylvanas. And I was thinking like, oh, this will be good. I got like some extra damage for like the Punisher or whatever with Barb Shot and stuff. Like I can help like DPS that down. But like in the mode that I got with just Punishers, Sylvanas just like didn't contribute anything, because she's good at controlling lane minions and sort of like abusing, lanes and pushing. But when you've got nothing to disable and you have no talents or anything to sort of like specialize her in a way where maybe she's just better at team fighting, then all of a sudden it's just like really awkward. You're like, okay, this character is just like strictly worse than every other character.
You have to approach her differently. I feel like I agree that she doesn't feel great, but almost like mind control, there's some merit to it when it's just the chaos and like you get a good position if you have the right composition. I've seen mind control be really useful. Because
I see Dunk like semi cringing over there.
I'm trying to think about it. I don't want to reject it outright.
Well, it's just I find it's the things change a lot. For example, another change I exclusively go Nidus Network on Zagara, and that's because it's the battle momentum, the additional creep spread. Like it becomes like you are just spamming abilities from afar. You can just siege infinitely. You're constantly getting free autos onto whatever's around you, and you're just constantly getting the battle momentum value. I had a game today where I'm sure you guys have experienced double Gazlo. And double Gazlo, Robo Goblin is ridiculous. Well, my team had triple Zagara. And I was like, all right, let's go 2 Nidus, 1 Maw. And there was literally creep on the whole map. Actually, I need to give a shout out to Zexorus, who was actually playing against us. He's on Heroes Power Hour. And he was on the opposing side with the double Gazlo. And he had to fear the wrath of roaches dropping constantly, hydras everywhere, just getting infinite damage. And when you have battle momentum, it's just banelings for days. You pop in your Nidus, get some mana back, pop out, spam more shit. It's so fun.
That sounds so frustrating, just having nonstop hydras being spawned. You're just you're just trying
to
play around the cooldown of
one.
But
one cigar, man.
Yeah. Scary stuff.
Yeah, but it's Another hero that really suffers is Zebo. I've tried to make Zebo work, but without the trait, like he's just trash. Like
the new trait just doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels
that's
bad.
unfortunate.
But well, maybe like there could be some brawl modes that somehow make use of like minions are pushing and like that's something they can really like play around with, is like adding all different new types of fun games that can be thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no idea to the extent that they're going to do. I mean, this is just the base, and I think this is a wonderful introduction to the brawl because it's just like flat fun. Obviously, we've read some of the ideas they have with like the Nova headshots and all these different things. But do you guys play Overwatch at all?
Not that much.
Well, a little bit. I've been having a little fun with the Halloween stuff.
Precisely. So the Halloween brawl is like really inventive. You've played the brawl or no?
Yeah, where you just fight the gauntlet of minions. Like they're basically like spawning and like coming at you and trying to rush your gate. It's almost like a tower defense type of thing, or like a hero defense.
It's more like the zombie mode or whatever in Gears of War or Call of Duty, where it's you're restricted to Ana, Hanzo, 76, and McCree. Those are your 4. So it's 4 players against 4 NPCs. You fend off these Zomnics, so they're zombie Omnics, that they try to explode at your door. There's there's different kinds. Some shoot at you. There are rip tires that go towards your door, and there's pumpkin version skins for. I guess this is spoilers if you haven't played it yet. So close your ears. But
spoilers.
Don't spoil the skins, Jake. It's what I've been.
Well, because I don't know. I was surprised when I saw the interactions come up because I didn't read anything. I just jumped in and played it, and I had a lot of fun. But it's Roadhog, Junkrat, Reaper, and then Mercy, and they're all like Halloween themed skins, and it's really well done.
Dude, that Witch Mercy, I just see some cosplay Witch Mercies. That is an awesome skin.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
That actually sounds like a mode I would want to play. Like that makes me want to go play Overwatch.
Yeah, no, like
that sounds sweet.
The idea of Blizzard being able to do that with heroes. If they made a Christmas pack and you had to like escort like Stitch's Santa's sleigh or something weird versus all these like, NPC mobs, they could basically make it feel like a multiplayer Diablo mission, right? I mean,
my mind has been racing lately ever since the brawl mode came out about the different things that they could do in terms of adding sort of PvE content to heroes. Because there are, believe it or not, it's hard for us to relate to that as much because we're sort of the like super tip top, in the pro scene, like, we could dominate most players in the game unless we're playing in the high end. It's like, it doesn't make as much sense for us, but there is a large amount of players who would love to have more like player versus environment stuff to do, almost like missions to do with their friends in game.
I even like that stuff, man. Like I think everyone could enjoy that.
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
I would enjoy it. Yeah, I like how we're just being like really cautiously approaching that, and Dunk is the first one to like, give in. But I totally would love that too.
Yeah, dude. Possibilities with the new brawl mode though. Like, I'm someone who was really sad that Arena just had no mention for a long time because of how much I enjoyed Arena at BlizzCon last year. Just kind of like, they said late 2016 and they weren't lying. But man, it was worth the wait. Like even just the one taste we've had.
Anybody who played Arena mode at BlizzCon was sitting there thinking like, yeah, this is good. This is going to be a nice thing for the game. Like it was a little rough around the edges, like initially, but it was one of those things where you're like, this needs to be a thing. This is a lot of fun. Everybody's having a great time with it. Yes, please. And then it was kind of like pushed aside, and everybody's just like, "Aw."
Yeah, I'm surprised they were so quiet about it. Like, they didn't say anything.
And then the timing is weird too. Like it's what like you were talking about, Jake, where it feels like they've shown all their cards of everything that we would. So it's usually easy to sort of guess, especially for us, where we're like always talking about news. We know what's going on more than most people, so it's usually pretty easy for us to have an idea of what Blizzard would be talking about or announcing at an event. But like, I have no clue where they would go for BlizzCon if they announce stuff.
If I had to guess, it's like really, it's not guessing. It's me saying what my wish list is, and it's like straight up, just like, okay, they're gonna roll out like a UI overhaul that includes in-game spectating and voice communication and clans, right? That's like the only other things that I can think of off the top of my head that like we want this, and maybe a I don't even know. But that's that's like all I can think of right now that we immediately like could benefit from, you know, as an overall game. I'm thinking like not just esports, right? Like the in-game spectating is like beneficial for learning. Like if your buddy's trying to learn how to play a hero and you can say, hey, just watch my game and I'll show you some cool stuff with Sylvanas, right? It's a cool way to teach someone that without actually having to play with them. And you can, and even if it puts them on like a 2-minute delay or whatever, just so they can't like, you know, feed you information or coach you live. It's still beneficial rather than like people don't like sending a replay. It doesn't feel social.
It's not the same. I mean, it's the same as like watching a VOD versus watching a live stream.
Right.
Like it's not the same level of interaction.
I agree. So who knows? I guess we'll have to find out. The anticipation is actually slaying me lately. There's been a lot of data mine stuff though. I think there were voice lines data mine for Reaper and 2 other heroes. I saw something on Reddit.
Yeah, data mine voice lines. I don't know, man. There's so many voice lines data mine that aren't in the game that like.
That's true. Like Ragnaros' voice line was data mined like 2 years ago. So
yeah. So I don't know if that really means
it's still
anything.
Cool though to think about it. I'm trying to remember
the Ragnaros Reaper expansion incoming. Would be great. I'm ready for the Molten Core map, dude.
Oh, dude,
yeah. The PvE Molten Core in Heroes. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
perfect.
As a brawl,
like dungeons,
like you gotta fight Rag. Like hell yeah, that sounds so fun. That's like the fantasy of what Heroes is, being the culmination of all Blizzard titles, and that fantasy of being able to take a famous or a classic WoW boss, however you want to explain it, and then literally have every hero or villain in all the Blizzard worlds battle that boss. Like that's just cool. That's the kind of thing that even like non-Heroes players are just like, yo man, I loved vanilla WoW, and I can fight Rag again, but I can be Diablo. Like hell yeah. Or maybe Blizzard would put restrictions in, and you have to be like specific, you know, heroes. Right, or something. There's
like lore-based restrictions. Sorry, guys, you can only fight Rag with actual like.
Maybe they have to be good guys or something from any universe, like, right? But
that would be really funny, actually. But that could be an alternative mode, like even outside the brawl system, like dungeon mode or whatever, could be an alternative mode to Heroes 2 that they could announce at BlizzCon if that was a thing.
It works
like,
so well,
sweet.
in like Hearthstone and stuff, because and especially the fact that you can like scale the difficulty to where I love that, you know, at Hearthstone, the idea of sort of like creating a PvE type of mode that scales even to really skilled players with like heroic mode is actually very challenging. Yeah. And it'd be so cool if they could nail a similar sort of setup in Heroes.
Yeah. I mean, there were like in Warcraft 3 customs, there were like custom games that were a lot about killing bosses, like as a team and stuff. And I feel like that was like a genre of game that would fit really well in the universe that is the Nexus or whatever that Heroes of the Storm has built, where you can have all these historic Blizzard characters fighting them. Like that would be sweet.
Yeah,
there's crazy potential behind Brawl. So let's talk about what we have. We have the first, Punisher Brawl, and it's best of 3. It's quick. The matches last maybe 5 minutes. I haven't timed them, but probably around 5 minutes for a single Punisher arena. You got to get 100 points. And obviously there's a lot of emphasis on killing the Punisher. That's worth 5 times as much as a normal hero. Murky's worth 1. I think all Vikings are worth 1. Is Misha worth a point?
Yeah, it would make sense.
Probably. I don't know if I've played with the Misha, Rexar Misha though.
I've never played with Misha. Yeah.
Yeah. But like one of the big topics right now is there's a lot of strategies that revolve around destroying the well. And, a decent number of people in the community have voiced that they would prefer it if the well was invincible. And actually, I agree with that, just because when the enemy team decides to commit 3 people at the start of the fight to killing the well, it's just not fun. It feels grimy. It feels like, they're bending the rules or something. But how do you guys feel?
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, to me it feels like you're sort of getting into introducing the possibility for like meta strats and stuff, and that's just like not what this is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't like the fact that you have that one guy on your team at the beginning of every game where you're like, I'm here to have a good time, like screw around a little bit, just like, have fun with it. And that one guy's on your team like, guys, what are you doing? We have to snipe the well. We have to all get in position. Come on. Like the try hard shot caller in Brawl. You're like, dude, come on, just have fun with it. Like you can go snipe the well if you want to do that. But I don't like that it introduces that sort of weird inclination to want to make this like meta strategy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wow, everybody I've talked to has literally agreed that it should just be invincible. That's very interesting. I didn't expect you guys to be so cut and dry with it. Nice. Well, very cool. Beyond that, Brawl feels great. I guess if you guys haven't tried it, it's on the PTR. I do not believe they've given us a date for the actual launch of it. In terms of the actual in-game UI, just to talk about it very quickly. Oh, that didn't work at all. There we go. It's actually the first thing on the list, which I thought was really interesting. It goes Brawl and then AI, Quick Match, Unranked, Ranked, Custom Games.
It's obviously in alphabetical order, okay?
A, V, Q, U. Anyways, they've got the little info here. You get your timer, how many days you have left to get your portrait. It's very easy to understand. Apparently, I already equipped my portrait. My PTR count is level 35. I play too much PTR. I don't even have a Smurf that high. Jiraka. But Samuro, this will be our transition into patch notes. Since Samuro is the new hotness, he feels pretty damn good. What do you guys think?
I don't know. KO, have you actually played him? How much?
I have played him quite a fair amount.
About him?
I think that he is going to be very strong, and he's well, let me just start by saying they nailed it. The character is incredibly fun. He feels just like you would want the old school Warcraft 3 version of the Blade Master to feel. He's got all the right abilities. He feels good to play. He's mobile. He's quick. He's really tricky to deal with in team fights. And overall design, I love it. I think he's just perfect. As far as how strong I think he is, I mean, he does have a really good kit. His ultimates are a little weird, though. His ultimates, so you have Blade Storm, which at face value is like really good because you're unstoppable just doing a bunch of damage, but obviously that leaves you extremely vulnerable. And it's a 110-second cooldown.
Yeah.
That's a very long cooldown.
That's an insane cooldown for just damage.
Yeah.
Like, that is a huge cooldown.
And the fact that in team fights, I mean, you're so vulnerable when you're using it. Now, the other one that I think is the more popular one right now is Illusion Master, which is the one that splits your clones up and you can control all of them. And it's kind of interesting how it works because it's not quite like Vikings where you just like spread everyone out across the map, because by the time you like walk them across the map, they're about to expire, right? Yeah. So it's more of like sort of like using it like Chen's ultimate in team fights, where you just have these characters that you're manipulating around in a team fight, but you can make some pretty cool plays with them, just by like repositioning yourself and like teleporting because you can activate any of the clones to like become that clone as your main Blade Master. Yeah. So then if you go the full mirror image build with Illusion Mastery, you're like so hard to actually isolate and take down, because you're just like, as soon as they try to go on you again, right before you get them past half, it's just like, oh, there's another set of clones. So it's mayhem.
It's so fun, dude.
Yeah, I think he's like got an insanely cool like thematic, and I think he's a really good interpretation of the Blade Master from Warcraft. I'm just a little concerned about having like a melee damage dealer hero, no CC, like almost no team utility kind of thing. Like that's the only thing where I'm like, I kind of want to shy away from him a little bit, because like I am not a big fan of those kind of heroes. Like not only for myself playing, but like I feel like this is going to be one of those characters where it's like, if you have a bad one on your team, it's going to be super frustrating because like they can't even contribute a stun or a CC or anything. Like they're just being derpy. Like that's my worry is like the like level of those kind of characters. It's just difficult to get them balanced right, in my opinion.
I guess what I like about him though is like he feels like he can go in and genuinely absorb skill shots, like because of the clones. Like if they choose wrong and he absorbs like some valuable skill shots, like that's, you know, the mirror image can. I mean, although like you said, he doesn't have CC, but he does have good damage. He is a threat to the back line. He has an escape. The movement speed and the cloak is really nice. And I don't know. He's just tasting my blade, boys.
He has a cool little bit of a rotation that you have to keep track of too, which I like. So he has this crit meter that builds up. I'm sure you guys have seen how it works, where if you get, I think it's on the 4th attack net with his stock
and
kit.
It looks hella cool.
Yeah, it does. Totally. And the sound design is great as well. Just like nerding out about all aspects of the critical strike there. But but if you time it, what you really want to do is get the natural crit, and then you want to activate your crit. And like in team fights, it's kind of hard to keep track of this rotation. You know what I mean? It's like kind of like playing WoW, where like, you know, a really good back to the whole everybody's been playing WoW thing. We can all relate to this. You know, when you're playing like a WoW character, and sometimes in like hard fights where there's a lot of mechanics, you sort of like mess your rotation up. And it's cool to see that in a character like Blade Master and Heroes the Storm in a MOBA, where you have to keep track of this rotation to optimize your damage. And it gets even more complicated when you start introducing the different talents as well.
Yeah. I really like that it's got an activatable portion to go with the passive. I think that's nice. Like, if it was just the once every 4 attacks thing, like, it wouldn't be as exciting. And it's nice to have that little like space for optimization, like you were talking about.
Yeah. So like one of the builds that I've really liked so far is you get the level 4 talent, where for every clone that you have active, your critical strike hits even harder.
Yeah.
And then at level 7, you get 2 charges of crit. I might have gotten the order wrong on that, but the idea is the same. So you sort of like go in on somebody, you pop all of your clones right when you get your natural crit, and then you instantly activate like 2 charges of like the other crit, and it's like so much damage. And then, you know, it's like these little things that you can do that are based around the rotation and the way that your like natural critical strikes work with the activatable one. Yeah. Makes this character have this built-in higher skill cap, which is a lot of fun to play around with. And it's like sets apart, I think, when you see a Blade Master who like has already the natural crit about to happen, then they activate it and like completely mess up their rotation. They lose out on quite a bit of damage.
I played one game as Blade Master, and I'm complete booty butt cheeks. It was laughable at how trash I was. So
you know what's the one I fear. Jake is the one I fear.
Dude, I'm like,
my Hero League game
with every melee assassin except Thrall. Like, you know, he's the only orc I can smork with. You know, we were talking about WoW, and I actually just, a lot of people are going to be upset with me. I just faction changed, so I'm now finally an orc. It just, you know, I love my Worgen.
I thought you were playing with Zoya.
And I abandoned him.
The little gnomes, you abandoned them?
I did. He's got too many gnomes, man. I just got out of there. So I went full smork. You know, I've played both. I will probably still play both. I think a lot of I'm not going to transfer all my characters. All my other characters are Alliance. But, you know, all my bros like Dunk, they all play Horde. So I'm like, man, Dunk plays a lot of the hours I play. And maybe we'll do Dungans. He plays support too. So like, get them heals, them short Qs.
Oh yeah.
Those top tier support heals. Oh yeah.
That's value. But I don't remember why I brought that up. Oh, I was talking about orcs and me being terrible with Samro. Nice.
You got to channel your Smork, and you're going to be better at him now that you faction change. So you're actually practicing naturally in WoW. So it all makes sense. All ties together very nicely.
Oh yeah, dude. My character looks hella decent. Like as an orc, big shoulders. Like, oh man, my purple shiny armor, love it.
Yo, I gotta say, if you're a Blade Master main, find yourself a good Uther buddy and become best friends.
Ooh.
And just, dude, Divine Storm, Blade Storm combos are just nasty. So good.
Oh yeah, that's the dream.
Okay.
Divine Storm, Blade Storm.
What do you guys doubt this? It's so good.
Dude, there's like so many other things that do the same.
I love Divine Storm. I actually think Divine Storm's really good. It's just waiting for.
Wait, did I say I meant Divine Shield? But
wow. Okay, see that makes a little more sense than.
Oh, okay, I was like, wait, why do you guys don't understand this?
Yeah, like I didn't really see the synergy there, but on a tangent, I do think D-Storm is good. But now that you switched it back to Shield, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. What you can do is run Medivh, right?
Yeah.
And even Blade Master is a really cool combo because you just put the damage mitigation, he's already unstoppable. So he just goes.
Guys, look how fabulous
That's
my guy is.
all I was gonna say about that. Oh my gosh, there he is.
That's my Smork.
I gotta say, Jake, your chess piece is like level 8 noob stats
Oh, yeah, what
right now.
I got a transmog. I haven't transmogged anything. This is all just my gear. Right?
You are certainly looking like very sparkly until you get to the
Yeah.
The chest piece is so lame. In the belt,
Strap
I could
leather
probably find a Barney the Dinosaur belt somewhere. It's like actually just Barney's face. Feels good, man.
Yeah.
Samuro is a beast, and he's a lot of fun to play. I mean, the bottom line is he's a lot of fun to play. They nailed the design, and I think his biggest weakness, though, if we're going to talk strictly power, is the fact that his ultimates, in my opinion, aren't really the strongest. Because you go either Blade Storm, which is an insanely long cooldown.
It does a lot of damage.
For what it is.
Yep.
It is, but I mean, it's easy to kind of move away from, too, because it's like, you know, he's moving while doing it, but I mean, like, if you have one good mobility skill, you can get away from it, and good players are going to dodge it pretty easily.
Would you call his other talent, his other heroic, like temporary lost Vikings? Like, what's the nickname for it?
See that I don't like when people compare it to that, just because it doesn't really feel like you get the. I mean, like I was a Vikings main, you know what I mean? It just doesn't feel the same. Because it's not like you go like soak the map or like abuse their map control or something. It's more of like a team fight style thing. Okay, Jake.
Did you test?
You're just playing it wrong.
I forgot to test this. Did you test if having one illusion in a lane will soak the lane for you?
You have to last hit the minion.
You have to last hit just like summons? Okay. That's interesting.
So if you're extremely good, I guess you can make it work.
I mean, that's how Abathur's locusts actually work, if you didn't know. If you have Abathur locusts in a lane, and you can leave the lane with your body, and if the locust gets the last hit, you'll still get experience. Or at least that's how it did work when I played Abathur a lot.
I think what we all need to do is review the Rich VODs and watch, see what he's doing with Blade Master. Surely that will be the meta.
Yeah, basically.
So we all have to go just learn.
Follow his build. Do everything he does.
Just what happened with Alarak.
I mean, not everybody's playing the same build in Alarak right now, though. He's getting getting diversity.
It is a variance, yeah.
Which is refreshing, even just in NA. I mean, I don't know if you guys caught. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but it was really refreshing seeing a lot of Alarak play for one, and for two, diverse styles, which is, the dream for a hero that's young in its life. I mean, sometimes that means the hero's not perfectly figured out yet. Other times it means just, play style preference and, viable options, which is good. But
for sure.
Okay, well, obviously I think we all like Brawl. Samuro seems like a pretty good guy. I'm personally, not gonna play a lot of him, even though I like the Smorks, but I will give him Bloodlust, and I've been Bloodlust in all those little mirror images as often as I can. And I actually will pick Rhaegar every time, and I will go Bloodlust every time, because I know it's not like try hard quick match or play. It's not a normal game where people aren't gonna yell at me, because I don't want to get yelled at. I'm sensitive. My feelings too, guys, and I'm gonna go Bloodlust every single game, and I have. It's really fun.
Nice.
You've been reported many times lately.
I hope so. The last thing I want to talk about is just in terms of do you think Heroes Brawl being on a 1 week rotation will ever develop small metas, even though it's gonna constantly change, or do you think it's just gonna be whatever and people will just slam their faces into keyboards?
I'm sure you will have some people who get serious enough to where the meta will develop. I think any game, even weird custom games and stuff, even in Hearthstone brawls, metas develop just because people learn from playing with each other, and people do kind of figure stuff out. So there will be metas, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if they change frequently and it's fast and it's fun. There's nothing wrong with having a meta. It's only when something about the meta goes against the spirit of the game or whatever that you'd think it's a problem. The killing the wells thing,
perfect.
You could call that a meta, and that kind of goes against what Brawl is about. So getting rid of that would be great, in my opinion. And
dude, speaking of this, it's so closely related. it's perfect. When we were in the Tempo house, we had this phase where we started getting really into Footman Frenzy, just as like an off time thing for fun. And it was, oh my God, it was so much fun just playing Footies Frenzies with, everybody in the same room. Yeah. But like, even with that, like you're saying, a meta develops.
Yeah.
Because like we all have competitive mindsets. So freaking Glaurung, like after 1 week of playing, just runs like the Agi hero, like agility based hero every darn game, and just like stacks claws of attack, and just like runs around just like trying to only like snipe. He was always like by far the most tryhard when we would play Footman Frenzy. And he would just be like the player assassin. Everybody's just like, Glaurung, can we just like have fun and play the game? And he'd just be like on the Blade Master, like sniping Dread over and over on Farseer.
It was legit my first time ever playing, and I like have no idea what anything does, right? I don't even know like the fundamentals really. And as soon as the game starts, we're playing 2v2s. I think KO, you were on my team, and Glau just was like up my butt the whole time, and you were like, trying to get me out of a mess, get my economy rolling or whatever, but.
Economy and Footman Frenzy. That's a really key part of Footman Frenzy.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago.
Or like and there's like all this stuff where you like block, keep your minions in like the back corner of your base instead of sending them out. I think that the point though is like, there always will be like a meta that sort of evolves. Even like you put up one little thing like a well in the back of the field or whatever, and people are instantly like, you don't know how to play this map at all. You're a scrub. And it's just. That's how things go. So there always will be, but as long as like it's changing and that they keep it fresh, there's new things to play around with. People will have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a good start. Looking forward to seeing what else they can do, and if you guys, a fun thing you can do actually tweet your ideas at the TownHall Heroes account. We don't actually talk about that. As like a thing, and if anybody has some like badass ideas for brawls, we'll talk about it on next week's show, because that's something I'm really curious to see what the community thinks in terms of like, we were talking about what exists in Overwatch right now, which is really, really kind of just like a fun event. So who knows? But let's move on and talk about patch notes.
Yep.
And where are we? Okay. So the actual live server got a balance patch today. This patch does not include Samuro. It does not include Heroes Brawl. That is also in the PTR. But they have been patching quite proactively. Even ever since Zarya got launched, we talked about the Zarya patches they put out pretty darn quick. And here we go. So Warhead Junction, inner nuke damage has been nerfed down to 50% from 100. And the time in which the nuke's upgrade has been pushed back to 18 minutes. Now, KL, last week we were talking about this a bit, about whether we think nukes should scale over time rather than have a big sudden, oh my God, it's amazing. What's your opinion on like the way the nuke damage scales?
Well, I mean, just in general, I think it's good that they reduced it a little bit, just so it's not such a like cheese factor for games. But I will say that I think it's overall just like silly, and I don't really understand the reasoning behind these like huge visceral spikes in power of the nukes, rather than having them linearly scale throughout the game in like a gradual manner, rather than like all of a sudden like. Because it's so unintuitive that like a player who doesn't know this stuff is playing the game, right? And they use their nuke at like it's 14 or 18 minutes that it scales or something, right? 14, we'll say.
It was 14, and they're changing it to 18 now.
Now it's 8. Okay, yeah, right. So a player using their nuke at like 17 minutes and like 30 seconds, like they don't know what's going on. They're just like, oh, cool, I have this nuke. I'm gonna go nuke the base. They've made a huge error by nuking at that time, which is it's like such a like weird error that they would never know that they were making. And I just don't like that that's so relevant. But it's all supposed to be surrounded with the core scaling. I guess I don't fully understand all the mechanics involved, but doesn't the core scales more gradually too? I don't understand why the nuke can't scale gradually.
Everything does, and I think it was just an oversight, because honestly, even in the developer comments, they're like, we're going to change it again, so nukes scale gradually.
They just so, like, kind of like, this is their like, temp fix.
Yeah, this is their temp fix just to avoid the like mid-game core rush type stuff, basically. And then we'll get some scaling in the future, which I think is good. I mean, that's what we discussed last week. Like you mentioned, Jake, it's exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah.
This is, of course, this is like the immediate response to kind of just fix what they see as the current problem, and then they'll keep working on it. So I'm totally happy with seeing that change to Warhead Junction.
Well, yeah, it's really nice, and I'm looking forward to the future update. Down to just hero updates. Vala, they're buffing Rain of
Oh,
Vengeance a
God.
little bit. Nice little tweak. Already was popular, but they're giving it more love. Because right now it feels like a stun. It doesn't feel like damage. So I guess they're just trying to remedy that. Caltrops, they're trying to increase talent diversity. It feels like they're buffing Caltrops. I mean, in theory, with Caltrops having damage, that makes the Vault have potential to do damage. So I have no idea what the numbers are, and I have no idea what the viability of an aggro Vala that's going to launch aggressively with damage is, but something to consider, I guess. And then level 7 Death Dealer, they're upping that a bit, and Frost Shot got a small nerf, as it's literally been a standard pick for way too long.
Every time it's existed.
Yeah, forever.
It turns out 40% slows are pretty debilitating, especially ones you can apply from far away and have high uptime. So
Yeah, for very little cost and very little risk.
So I don't think these changes are going to change the default Vala build, and I think people are still going to play the same style. It's just like maybe you'll see a little more rain, and of course the Frost Shot means it's a little weaker. I don't think the Caltrops changes are enough to make it pickable. Like, I don't think it's even really close, honestly. Maybe in like a really specific matchup or something. I don't know. Maybe they interact with Arthas in a particular way, like so you can kite them better. Who knows? But overall, it's definitely not going to be the go-to. Same with the level 7 talent. But it's nice to see tweaks to talents that are getting underpicked or are too weak, because it doesn't cost them anything to do that tweak. They just make that tweak, and then like the people who like that talent for whatever reason, they're just, it's a little better. So that's good.
KO?
I would not be surprised if we see people go a little bit different. I think the level 7 talent, the Death Dealer one, is actually not too bad. I think that one's pretty good. But the whole thing with the level 16, I think if you go that route, maybe we'll see people just picking up Mana Core more instead, just to like shred frontline, especially with these like, front-loaded tank compositions. It does shred pretty well. So especially if you compare that with like Rancor at level 20. So maybe we'll see a little bit of diversity there. But I just always think it's one of those weird things where they're changing up a character who feels like they're in a very solid place right now. So every time I always see that, I'm just like, be careful.
Yeah.
But I mean, Reign of Vengeance definitely was being underpicked a little bit. I don't know if they've saved Caltrops. I don't think they're... I don't know. Maybe we'll see a little bit of that coming out, but dude, nobody wants that talent. And then, so yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see a little bit more heroic diversity, and that could be a good thing.
There's, just correct me if I'm wrong, there is no double vault talent, right? Anymore?
There's like a reset one if you get a last hit or something with an auto attack after a vault, if I'm not mistaken, but not like just a straight up bank an extra vault charge.
Yeah, because I was just trying to think of like what would make Caltrops compelling. Like if you could vault in, drop the Caltrops, vault back away, have all those Caltrops down. That sounds like that might actually be like interesting. It's still a risky thing to do, but yeah, it sounds really mana costly too. So I don't know. I don't know how to make that talent worth a while, but that was the first thought I had. But yeah,
Vala is going to continue being strong, and she's in a pretty good place right now. And I like seeing her being. I always love to see a character settle to where they're not first pick every game. They're not like I must have this character, but it's also to where she's still valued highly. Like people will pick her, and they're like, okay, good, we got like this strong damage. She's not overpowered, but she's a strong damage, and that's where she needs to be.
Fair enough. Now, I need to interrupt this really quickly because Dunk made me feel really self-conscious about my new orc. He made fun of my chess piece, and I picked out a chess piece just for you, Dunk. And man, my chest is looking so nice that my chains are just freaking out.
Oh,
what the heck? What is
there
that?
You go. There you go.
It's a monstrosity.
Much better.
That's
a smork you can put in your group and be proud of.
Where did you even find that?
I don't know. But
your haunted chess piece,
dude. Like I don't really know my way around Orgrimmar. Like trying to find the whatever you call it, transmogrification person. I was like, where the hell is this guy? But we did it, boys. We did it just for the memes. And now I got my jiggly chains.
Sick chains, man.
Okay, back to patch notes. What have we got next? Nazebo gargantuan damage has been reduced a little bit. Gargantuan has become way more common than Ravenous Spirit. And again, I mean, although we typically only watch pro matches and we look at the meta that exists there in Nazebo. Well, I guess he was played once in Europe this weekend, I think. He hasn't really risen in popularity. I guarantee you, at the lower levels, Gargantuan, he hurts. He really does. And if people don't understand that, yeah, this is not something you tank. You just walk away from it.
Yeah.
That's going to feel bad.
Yeah.
So it's I think that's a solid change. Ravenous Spirit got a little bit of love. I think they got to be careful with that. If you remember, I mean, there's a lot more long range interrupts in the game now than there ever used to be. So I don't know if Ravenous will ever be what it was back in Alpha, where Ravenous was like literally, it's like, okay, we win the fight because we had a big Ravenous. Sweet.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I wonder, I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but it would be interesting to see what the exact numbers were of Ravenous back when it was insane, and see like how far they are off from where it is now, because it doesn't feel nearly as impactful.
I feel like it was
that's
around
just because there's so many more
130
tools.
or something, like 127
Yeah, maybe.
in that range.
But the scaling was also different
True.
back then.
But it,
Yeah, Garg is kind of insane right now. It feels almost like you picked Nazebo for Garg, right? And that he shouldn't be so based around just that single heroic being that powerful. So maybe Garg was a little bit overtweaked, but I don't know about you guys, but looking at the rest of his kit, I just don't feel that good about Nazebo anymore, because that was the big selling point for me. Like when I would pick Nazebo, I'm like, just get to level 10, you get Gargantuan, it's going to be this huge influencer in team fights that does so much damage once you throw it out there. And if you hit some toads, that's pretty cool as well, I guess. But, it's really about the Gargantuan just shredding. And now that that's not as strong, I feel like I'm even less inclined to want to pick Nazebo.
That's possibly true. I mean, 10% nerf to Garg's damage overall. That's significant. I don't know if it's enough to really crush him.
Because like Nazebo wasn't really in a place where I looked at him that seriously.
Yeah.
There's a couple players who play him in Hero League that make him look pretty good at the moment, but I just haven't really been like, I haven't seen it being prioritized much. I haven't really wanted to pick it much.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of like this very, very tiny buff to Ravenous to compensate for that nerf on Gargantuan. I don't know. And then all the love went to the Spider build.
at least they buffed Spider Base. They reduced cooldown by a second.
Spider Base.
Spider at base.
Get those Spider Bays out.
Because I think the reducing the cooldown is a little bit nice, since there is a chance your spiders literally do nothing, whereas in the past you could literally lob spiders out and just be like, cool, they nipped at someone a little bit.
I miss that.
Yeah. Well, they also slowed down the speed of the jar, right? So they made the jar harder to hit.
It is tricky to hit.
Yeah, I thought they also gave it more AoE though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
To compensate.
Let me pull up Nazebo.
But yeah, 10 to 9 seconds on that. And then the W build actually got pretty significant nerfs between Dead Rush and Ring of Poison both getting nerfed. I think that's pretty meaningful for Nazebo as well overall.
That's the only way I was seeing success with the new style was you go for the W build, and that hurts. Like I really don't know where he sits now. I think this is like, I had some faith in him being like a new hero rising up. Not a new hero, but returning back into the meta, and I don't know. It just still feels like something's lacking, unless it's on a map where he can really benefit from constantly being around minions. Those are the only, because I was talking about the spider build with you guys as we were setting up, and I was like, okay, well, I see maybe some single target. The double spiders that come out now at level 7, going to the spider build on something like BOE. You throw him at the Immortals, that sounds good. But then it's just like, okay, well, he's not getting any value out of his trait. So in the long term, he's not in lane, he's not farming minions a lot. So Zebo doesn't have that late game where just fundamentally the way his trait works, he's a late game hero. He starts out kind of shitty. So it's tough.
I will be trying out the spider build with Ravenous. I'm going to give it a shot. And I'll have to let you guys know how that works for me. But
Yeah.
I'll put a couple games into it and see how it feels. Try to make it work. But like, what do you take at 16 now that Dead Rush is gone? Is there a good spider option? We should look at the, like, real quick. Just go through the talents. Think of a spider build. What would the spider build be? Because
13 you would probably go Ice Block.
Well, one thing that's awkward is Spider Build really wants to play at long range, so it wants Thing of the Deep, but the level 1 talent for Spiders is really important. Yeah. I feel like that's a really painful thing for him because, like, I feel like you really need all the multiplicative effects you can get to make Spiders worth actually talenting into. And, like, having Thing of the Deep and Widowmakers both on tier 1 hurts him a lot. Because before, like, you had the spider talents all on, like, separate tiers. And I think the way Spiders works, you really want the range because they don't get any benefit from being close, and you're not going to be getting some of the tankiness talents. So, like, it's going to hurt.
I think, like...
What about the new Soul Harvest at 16 to pair with that?
Well, the problem is you have to be close for that. So, like,
that's right.
It makes 100. It makes total sense if you want to go the Soul Harvest Toads build, where you get resistant with your Toads and Soul Harvest, and then you're in close range. I don't think that's good enough, but it at least makes sense. It's, like, compelling as an idea of a build, but, like, you pretty much are forced into going Spider Colony at 16. So
yeah, like, I could see some cool kind of build where you try to go, like, Soul Harvest with Ravenous, but it's totally counterproductive. Like, you have to go in close range and then run way out to use
to do Ravenous.
Like, what?
It is a little questionable how to use Soul Harvest with anything other than, like, the Garg Toad build, if that's even a thing.
This, like, spider with no cooldown with Mouth and Innervate, like, I just have infinite space.
Is Mouth just being a bro?
Well, I don't even know if he's innervating me, but I just feel like I can cast spiders.
Did you go hard and focused?
It's the
level 16 version for spiders, right?
Spider Colony. It's hard and focused.
Oh yeah.
But like, that's a lot of spiders.
It is hard. You look at a talent build like that, and you just see talents where there's like two really important options on the same tier. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, like, that completely shuts you down to wanting to do that build. It's a lot of the reason, like, people don't like auto attack Falstad, because there's just awkward talent tiers, and that plays a really big part in choosing builds. So I think it's something that they have to be careful with it, instead of just looking at, like, only numbers for abilities, is making sure that there's, like, a good synergistic clear path with maybe a little bit of variance, but there has to be one good clear path for, like, different playstyles if they want to encourage players to go those playstyles.
Yeah, but I don't really like the idea of talenting Nazebo all into one ability either. Like, I feel like that's the less cool way to do it than, like, having something crazy added to each ability or whatever being your final build.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, I don't like when a character goes like Vala right now, where she's going all multi-shot build. Like, I don't find that as cool as a hero where you end up putting, like, 2 points into Q, 1 point into W, 1 point into E over the course of the game, and, like, they all kind of do different things and add stuff. Like, that's how I really like to see talent builds made, and it feels like Nazebo's current talent tree is all about, like, pick one ability and make it really good.
Run with it, right.
Yeah.
Except for, like, the few, it's like, okay, Thing of the Deep, it's like, so safety and, like, poke versus, like, 30% more damage. It's like, probably going to go for the damage. But I guess there are a few possible scenarios where you might consider Thing of the Deep.
I still want to try it, but I feel like it's not gonna be very good. I'm just curious.
Feels bad, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth trying out for sure.
Well, that's Zebo. Malf, who has risen to godhood in the most recent patch. First pick in NA, like every game just about. Not so much in EU. He's good play, though. Regrowth has gone up in mana. They kept the cooldown down. They've reduced cooldown ever since the buff. The Entangling Roots cooldown, though, gone up to 14 seconds. They made Roots, like, way more impactful in general. And Dunk, how do you feel about this fix, quote unquote, for roots?
It makes roots line up better with the rest of the CC in the game, if that makes sense. Like, if you look at the AoE crowd control options that are available, like at 10 seconds, it was kind of an outlier in terms of like how powerful it was as both a zoning tool and frequency of CC. So it makes a lot of sense to me that that's one of the avenues they targeted for switching roots. I mean, for nerfing roots. The 4 seconds extra cooldown is pretty meaningful.
Yep.
For me, I think, entangling roots, it should be something that you have to lead at least a little bit. I don't like that you can just snipe people with the roots by like casting it right on top of them. And I don't know if those 500ths of a second are going to make all the difference, but maybe they've probably tested it internally enough to know that like it's not going to be as perfectly snappy to be able to like, because right now you can just target directly on somebody and it will connect. And I don't really like that. It just doesn't feel like entangling roots should. I don't think it should be a really long delay, but it should have to spread at least a little bit because it's the nature of the learning curve of that character is to learn how to like use that ability and get the timings right. So it looks pretty good. That is pretty harsh. 4 seconds on the cooldown. It is
really harsh.
And you're buffing or you're making it cost more mana. Like, oof.
I wonder if that's going to make it be used more only when you actually have like CC chain to really like kill a target.
Well,
and you can't use it as like Malfurion's own individual CC anymore.
I like that like roots are gonna feel like, whoa, he spent roots, because it's like a hook is 16 seconds, and you think of like you throw a hook out, it's like, okay, he spent hook, that's on cooldown. You see roots go out and have no impact, it's like they're missing that in their kit. We have a small window, let's take advantage of that. So that's really, I like that, because how many zoning roots do we see? It's just like, nope, you can't enter, and it's just, well, that's fine, but it feels a lot less more costly to do that kind of stuff.
Well, they're not being used to zone; they're being used to like instantly root somebody at range.
Well, they are used to zone too, but it's in some instances.
I agree with you. I think it should be like a zoning ability that actually has some cost to it.
Yeah. But what you're saying is just the additional range now, and the quick. It's almost like a lunar flare.
Yeah, it is like a lunar flare, and with a Loon's Grace, you have such a long range instant root that doesn't feel like entangling roots. Should be more of something that you throw down as like, so this is going to slowly create this like zoning area that you can't really get through, and it's tricky. But you can, if you get the timing just right, you can sneak past it before it fully grows out, and that whole interaction is really critical to making roots feel like an interesting ability rather than just a long range stun.
It's interesting that they finally decided to remove rampant growth after Loon's Grace has become like the go-to insane talent. Like,
well, at least they're removing one option from Malf, where it's like, okay, Malf just he's healing over time, right? We're not going to let him have burst healing. You're committing to him. You're sacrificing your ability to be Uther.
Like, okay, he wasn't Uther even with rampant growth though. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Rampant growth was not burst healing. Like, it's, if anything, it's just a little more mana efficient healing. Like, it increases your health per mana ratio. Like, it's not an actual burst heal still. Like, and I think the fact that a Loon's Grace, I think the fact that a Loon's Grace was like the go-to by a wide margin on that tier in almost every game now, it's like kind of a funny time to remove that. I think if they're really concerned about Malf's like upfront healing value, what they should change is make regrowth heal more the later in the heal over time duration it is. So like the heal over time ramps up over the course of regrowth. Like, that'll do more to prevent like him reactively healing and put more emphasis on spreading your hots and like appropriately managing your team's aggro, stuff like that. I say aggro, but I mean like you want someone with their regrowth in the late phase of their ticks to like take damage so it gets healed off, that sort of thing. Like, I think that would be a better way to do it than like nerfing rampant growth that wasn't even the go-to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't touch the ultimates at all either, because right now we see this like drastic swing to where everybody takes Twilight Dream at the high level.
Let it sit for a little while. I think that's something that's like everybody's just kind of feeling that Twilight hotness, and then somebody's going to bust out Tranquility again and be like, wow, this is actually really good, because like,
oh my gosh,
just
now that Ravenous is buffed, you know what I mean?
Oh my god. They used
Remember
to be
that
the
was like the
Ravenous
ultimate
counter.
counter to
It
Ravenous.
was, dude.
You
Yeah.
just go drink.
Yeah.
Ignore Ravenous.
So, my big thing with Mouth that I think is weird is Luna's Grace, level 4, increases range of all basic abilities. And I was just talking about Lunar Flare. Look at Tyrande. Lunar Blaze, level 7, increases the range of one of her abilities. You don't get more range on her heal. You don't get more range on her owl. That would be funny if you did somehow.
More than global.
But, it's like, that's level 7, and this is level 4. And fundamentally, you'd think, the later game talents would be more impactful. But I don't know. Luna's Grace is in a position where it's just like, why wouldn't you get it? But I don't know what kind of swaps they could make. Like, maybe Strangling Vines at 4, and just to make a Luna's Grace and cleanse a decision, and that's like a hard call to make, right? I don't know. Because I don't think anybody
That's actually more interesting.
Why would you go Strangling Vines over cleanse? And
Strangling Vines is just a trash talent.
But yeah, put it at 4 though. If you want to keep it in the game, then I guess you have to move Vengeful Roots, and then you have to try to make a root build a thing. But
no, you don't.
Well, you know what I'm trying to say. just put scenarios in the game, and that can be our root build, right? But I feel like Luna's Grace versus Cleanse would actually feel like, whoa, he opted to do this. Yeah. Will it pay off?
Yeah. No, it's
weird though, rampant growth. At least maybe we're just not seeing the rest of the iceberg. We just see the tip, and for us, we see a Luna's Grace being picked most of the time, especially with how strong Roots is. Mm-hmm. And you have enough healing to keep your team up with just stock regrowths, pretty much. And then you go Twilight Dream. Very rarely do you see anybody go Tranquility over Twilight Dream. You just have enough natural healing with your Q to keep everybody up in the team fight, and you also bring this huge amount of utility, control, and just damage.
He's got it all,
with Moonfires and Twilight Dreams.
And he's got such good synergy with mages with Innervate now. Jaina, Li Ming, they're both so scary with Innervate.
Oh yeah. So one thing I do want to give Blizzard credit for real quick is just with this hotfix, this is pretty good. I mean, they've they hit these characters that everybody's whoa, these characters are really broken right now, or being first pick, first banned every game. Yeah. They hit this quick. We're at least getting some changes out there.
I think,
and that's pretty cool.
They've been on their toes for a while now, but I think they're just trying to get everything in as good of a spot as possible for BlizzCon, which is fantastic, obviously. But no, speaking of just kind of getting all the heroes in tune, another hero that got tuned up a lot, they're bringing back is Chen, and Chen has become a quite formidable brawler. He's never really prominent here in NA. Definitely does see play, or did see play, but now he's ban material. We're seeing a lot of bans targeted towards players like Equinox. I would imagine Glaurung would get target banned towards Chen in events because he is a dive hero that has a lot of sustain, has high impact, 2 ults that are both viable. But they're bringing it back a little bit with this patch. So base health and mana, or base health and regen, they're tuning that down a little bit. Storm, Earth, and Fire also being tuned down a little bit. What else do we got here? So that's a nice tweak, trying to give some more talent diversity. But overall, just small tunings, bringing them down a little bit, which is, I like that. It's not dramatic. It's a very clean, just kind of all right, let's just tweak them down. Small numbers.
I absolutely agree. I think it's really good that they both Mouth and Chen have both had tweaks that I think are a good amount of changes for one patch, especially after such a short time. Don't go overboard, don't go crazy, just a little bit here, a little bit there. Same with Vala even. I mean, she had one tiny nerf to Frost Shot, and the rest was buffing really underused talents. I think these kind of smaller patches are a better way to approach balancing it, especially with a big tournament coming up like BlizzCon.
I totally agree with you guys. I think you nailed it. I'm just happy that it seems pretty much picking the right characters to make tweaks to. And
this is all the characters that just got tweaked, right? And they're not touching everyone else.
Yeah,
which is good.
Just getting them in the right place. Just letting it settle a little bit, not trying to be oh well, we're gonna rework the character next week. And you're just wait, we're not sure the character's broken yet, and they're just nerf everything by 200%.
Feels bad.
Dude, Chen is fun now, like with that other
Oh
ultimate.
God, yeah.
I love going in with that and just like beating people up. But it feels like have you guys ever seen all of the spirits actually die? I've never had all of my spirits die
I've never seen a Chen
in a
die.
team fight.
Because the blue
Never
one's
seen a Chen
die.
well,
I
in
died.
the ult form, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause
I
the
don't
blue
know if
one's
I've ever
always so
seen
far
multiple
back.
spirits die. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen. Yeah, but that's a good point. Yeah, like Chen's never actually just been completely killed off, like while he's in that spirit form. At least from what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, it got tuned
The
down a
spirits
little
are
bit, so who knows?
Beefy.
Yeah, not a big nerf to their health pool though. Just very small amount.
Yeah.
All right. Going down the list, ETC. ETC has changed a lot too. We see stage dive very consistently now. I don't know that I've seen mosh picked more than once in recent games, on the pro scene at least. And then, Pinball Wizard, they're trying to, I guess, make it so ETC has a bit of burst. So they're giving him some, extra bonus damage up to 200% at level 7, just trying to mix things up with him. Again, these are really just kind of nice small tweaks, just kind of giving ETC different options at level 7, and it seems like a good change, all of them.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll affect too much. At level 1, how do you guys feel about this talent being a choice over Block Party ever? Because like, while I like Block Party, I'm not sure. Like I've been doubting it just a little bit lately, because a lot of times you're sort of like going in, unless you have a lot of melee with you, you're not really like getting block on your team that much.
I think
That's a good point.
it really depends if you're actually playing against anyone with like fast autos, in my opinion. Like the value of a block is worth so much more than like your auto attack sealed for. ETC's base auto attack damage is so low, like relative to the amount you're gonna block if someone who actually has good auto damage hits you. Like
That's true,
imagine
yeah.
like the block. I don't know. The potential upside of like blocking a thrall auto or something is like so high compared to like gaining back 25 health when you auto attack. Like, yeah, long term in like a lane split pushing or something, you're gonna get a lot of health back from Guitar Hero, but I don't think it's like
Or blocking a Blade
compelling.
Master crit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah.
Compositional, situational. But it's a good point that you make though about ETC. Oftentimes being in the front, seemingly alone, maybe double warrior, right? Doesn't get the value against tracers, and Tychus is obviously not going to be as impactful because they just kind of mow through it. But
I think Block Party is one of those talents people read and instantly are like, that's busted. Like that's going to be infinitely better than anything else. But and a lot of times in actual practice, you don't get the block on as many people as you would like, and it's only 8 seconds.
I mean, I thought the same thing about Mage Armor on Medivh, and that ended up being kind of underwhelming just because like you couldn't get the blocks on demand right when you needed them. So I think there is some argument to be had that maybe just like having the blocks that could apply to your allies but frequently doesn't happen like when you need it, like it's just not that impactful.
Yeah. Zarya changes. Oh snap.
yeah, down to Zarya. She's been getting a lot of changes back and forth, and now she's been tuned down a little bit in a few ways. So basic attack damage down, health regen down. I think they're finding that when she's at max power, she hurts. She hurts a lot.
Yeah.
That base attack damage nerf is huge.
Ooh, especially when
too.
you can scales 200%,
Gosh,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Like that's going to be really, really impactful. Like a 15% damage nerf, a little more.
Yeah. How do you feel about her, like, as a whole, KO? We haven't really heard you talk about Zarya much. What are your opinions of the hero now that she's been in the game?
So when she first came out, I was like, okay, she's gonna be like, I'm gonna let the dust settle. I didn't want to play her that much because I sort of wanted other people to just like play her, and I heard she was like super broken. So I was like, they're gonna change her. I'm not gonna even mess with her yet. And I let this like wave of changes go through before like getting heavily invested into Zarya, and I'm glad I did because things have changed drastically while she's been around. But what I've seen is that, she gets a lot of priority in Hero League and everything right now. Like in her current state, she's extremely strong. And I didn't actually realize until talking to some pro players how extremely like overpowered she's considered in like competitive right now.
Yeah.
Like in scrims and stuff. Like she's always first ban because she does like the damage of an assassin, but she like can't die. She's so tanky and everything too, and brings so much tankiness to your team. So I think she was definitely like in a spot where she was a little bit too strong. I am excited for her to find a good equilibrium of power because she's such a cool character to have in the game and what she brings to the table. But yeah, dude, she just is a monster at the moment. And as you're bodying that Arthas there, he is just getting root. I like the root plus repulsion at the same time. That's brutal.
It's just rude.
I think it's cool that there's a couple different builds. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen this one, but there's like the auto attack build where you get the damage that's increased while you're in melee range. And then at level 7, there's like another auto attack talent. You do so much insane amounts of damage if you just ignore Zarya. So what ends up happening in team fights is like the enemy team will split focus a lot of times onto the Zarya and get really confused and like messed up. Like Zarya does a good job of zoning out damage because all of a sudden she does so much damage to them that they're like, holy cow, we have to focus the Zarya instead. Yeah. And unless everybody on the team focuses Zarya, she's like, she loves that because she's sitting there like using shields on herself. She thrives on team splitting damage.
She's the only hero in the game that benefits from tanking towers too. Like there's a lot of like little weird interactions that exist with Zarya. Like the fact that for her to run up to towers and tank the shots with her shield, that gives her energy. So she's like, I don't know if she's a lane bully. I really don't have enough experience to comment on that, but she's got some cool things with her ability to lane as a warrior. And we don't typically like look at warriors and be like, oh yeah, warriors are awesome at laning. Like sure, Leo was once there, and sure, Johanna was once decent, and but that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Hopefully, she's found her place with these slight little well, not slight. These pretty drastic.
She still hits hard at 200% though. She really does.
Yeah. I hope that these changes are what she needed to get her to the right place. By looking at the numbers, it's like hard for me just to be like, yeah, they nailed it. I mean, I really don't know because I just haven't been that hands-on with Zarya until she sort of finds her place. But these changes look good. Needed to have things change a little bit. I like the speed barrier change randomly thrown in there too. It's like, it's funny how all of these characters get changed in terms of the numbers where they needed to be. And then they're like, by the way, we just randomly changed this other talent too.
It's probably not seen enough play or something.
It's like they have like loot boxes where there's like bonus change and it's just like whatever you get.
Damn.
Their speed barrier gets changed. No, but I mean, I'm sure it makes sense internally. They have the numbers.
They've probably got a stat that says like, yeah, this is picked like 11% of the time. They're like, okay, let's try to bring that up. And it
just looks funny to us because we're just like, speed barrier was a thing, I guess.
Right. And that's really the patch.
Yeah.
So
good patch.
Here's our transition. Gul'dan not seeing a lot of changes either, but he is seeing play by Dignitas over in EU, and I'm curious how you guys felt about Gul'dan or Gul'du.
Gul'dan. I am definitely on the Gul'dan side.
I'm Gul'dan all the way. Bakery talked it up last week in TownHall. He's like, yeah, Gul'dan's the hotness.
Yeah.
That was not the hotness, Bakery Kun.
Man, you guys just don't know. You guys just haven't played enough Gul'dan. You guys don't know the secret OP? I've been on that EU grind, man. Gul'dan is sick. He's
like
okay. Like to be fair, he doesn't fit into every situation, but I feel like he's one of those characters that like once you get to the mid to late game, he is a monster in so many situations. The only thing he really doesn't bring to the table is good tank shred.
I feel like he's good once you get the corruption, the echoing quest completed, and the corruption double hit thing. Like I think that's the only time he's actually good.
Yeah. Well, once he gets to the level 13 increased life drain as well versus heroes, that's a pretty significant power spike as well.
Yeah.
And especially like when bruisers try to go in on you in team fights, you're just like, you can't out trade me. Like deal with it. The whole time you have that up, you can just out sustain people. In all seriousness, I don't know for sure like if Gul'dan is as hype as they're making him sound. But I think that's kind of cool to have this like pick come out of left field that they're like, this is so good.
Kind of an interesting response to the double tank meta. Like if you think about it, if the enemy team has like double tanks, they're not doing that much damage. So the life steal is like a lot more impactful because you're mitigating a much higher percentage of their total damage output. So like I could see if Gul'dan is going to be good, it will be in like a lower burst damage, more tanky meta because he fits in that and he's really good against those tanks. Where like
Yes.
it doesn't cost you to have your damage be damage over time against tanks because like you're not really bursting tanks down anyway. You're well, like except when Toronto was insane, but in general, like you're usually like grinding them out and stuff. Whereas like that's what Gul'dan is good at.
Well, Gul'dan is also good at surviving hard dive by one like big assassin, and Tracer's pretty big as well right now in Europe, right? So I think just like Raynor, Gul'dan handles Tracer quite well because while she jumps in there in the backline, just being like an annoying little mosquito, you just sit there and keep life drain on her, and like she's not going to outtrade you in those situations. Not to mention you can drop the fear on her and completely annihilate her. So there are some cool ways that you can make her make Gul'dan's not she, but yeah, you can make Gul'dan fit into a lot of comps. But you're totally right. When there's not a whole lot of damage to sort of just like jump all over him, because he's pretty vulnerable. Once you stun him and once you get on him, he's dead. But if you can't get to that point, if you're just sort of whittling away at him, which is what double tank thrives at, it doesn't have much impact. He just sustains through it.
I'm gonna do something weird. Just keep talking.
Let's get weird. But yeah, I mean, like overall, I just think what is what is
Said he was
happening?
doing something weird, KO. He didn't lie.
He's getting extra weird.
Yeah,
Oh
I don't
my
know where the
God.
right capture card is. What's it called?
What about
Here, I can do this. I can do this. Keep talking.
Alarak versus Gul'dan? That's one thing I'm curious how that plays out. I feel like, I mean, once he sort of shadow charges in and if you can survive that initial silence and not get like completely wrecked by that, he's gonna have a hard time killing you because you can just like life drain the rest of his damage.
Ooh, does that make it an interesting skill matchup where, like, as Alarak, you actually have a lot of incentive to hold off on casting Silence until Gul'dan starts to drain?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
actually an interesting interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Because if
Alright.
you can interrupt the drain, he's hosed, right? Like, just absolutely
yeah.
bodied, probably.
He's basically a fireman. Well, we were talking about Gul'dan, so I wanted to talk about the Dig matches. This was the finals of the EU Nexus Games. Spoilers, ahoy! Misfits came for the winner side, so they went up 1-0 by default at the start of the series.
Yep.
So they had to win a total of 3 games to make it a 4 in the best of 7. So it's a best of 7 for the finals. And Misfits looked pretty darn good. This is like a glimpse of the EU meta. Dig, Tracer Tastar, you're just mentioning Tracer, seeing a lot of play. That's a powerful combo. Some of the responses, we saw that the mouth Illidan, I was so confused watching that draft. Like double blind, I mean, I get it, but like it felt like the Lily just why third pick? And I'm curious how you guys feel about that Lily picking game 2 on Curse Hollow.
Well, Lily does quite good against Tracer as well.
Right.
Just because you can, shut her down every time. That may have been, especially with Tracer being picked extremely early on in the draft. Also with Illidan, there's a little bit of sleeper synergy there because you throw the dragon on Illidan. Just sort of, it's another thing to enable him. It stays on him. It can follow him while he's doing his chasing. So that's where I think it probably came from.
Okay.
A little bit of Tracer, a little bit of pairing with Illidan.
Do you feel like that's enough damage for Cursed? Like Tychus, Illidan, it doesn't feel like you have a whole lot of burst potential.
Well, the thing is, now the current version of Malf, you do quite a significant amount of damage with like just Moonfires and Twilight Dreams. And then with Lily, you're also sort of a hybrid depending on how you build it. So maybe they were just going for that sort of like double hybrid support type of thing, and like with the specific builds they were running. That still does look weird to me. I'm grasping for straws here, trying to rationalize it.
I don't know. I really like the comp, actually. Like, I think the double support is really good against Tracer. Like, you mentioned Lily individually being good against Tracer, but I think double support is actually really good because if you prevent the one shot, I feel like Tracer gets so much worse.
Yeah.
And having Mouth doesn't prevent the one shot on his own, but Mouth Lily should be able to. They didn't manage to win that game with that comp, but I think the comp is still fine.
All right. The Gul'dan picks, obviously, we were just talking about him. That's across the board. I think one of the other picks that I thought was really weird was the lone tank Zarya. So that's game 4 from Dignitas, Tassadar, Tracer, Zarya, Gul'dan, Medic. And, there's a fair bit of control with, Force Walls and Horrify. And I don't remember if they went Grift on Surge or Expulsion Zone. But do you think Zarya is a lone warrior, a solo warrior?
Well, the way that we're building it here, it looks like, you're talking about the game 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were going, for that double shield, but they were just way too all in on the Tracer with that comp. And like Gul'dan's damage, it's not super like impactful instantly, And I don't really like that draft. I'll just be honest. Like it seems like they have a lot of ways to enable the Tracer to be annoying with that comp, sure, but I feel like it's going to be really hard for them to secure kills. It's just way too defensive. Because like Gul'dan is sort of the mage version of Raynor. Like you're a bit of a bruiser with that extra survivability you have through your kit, where you're still vulnerable, but you can survive a little bit. So having that already, and then you just have Tracer as your kill secure, but then you have like a Tassadar who doesn't really help secure kills, and I don't know. It just seems too defensive to me.
I agree. I think they don't really have the tools to secure kills in the back line with Tracer.
I'm looking at Twitch chat now. It's making it into the stream.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of foreheads pop up.
Too fun. Anyways. Yeah, that was the EU Nexus games. Got a glimpse of what these are, two of the top teams. Misfits not going to BlizzCon, but they did end up taking the series. So good on them on maintaining, really strong form. And Dig, they said that they're not in tryhard mode. They're more worried about preparing for BlizzCon. Nexus games was something to do, something nice, but they're going to create a boot camp. So maybe these weren't necessarily their go-to builds. Picking Gul'dan in every game seems a bit almost like a challenge they set for themselves, if I had to be honest. But again, they're going to play in $1 million tournament versus a 10K all-night event. And they still got top 2. So
sometimes having one character, like they could have been using that as well, just to like practice that a lot in a high stakes event setting. It's not insanely high stakes, but you get what I'm saying. And honestly, sometimes in a like big tournament finals, especially something like BlizzCon, having one pick that you're extremely masterful on and your team can use with great success, just to have that in your like back pocket can be very, very good, because you bring it out once, and if a team shows that they can't deal with it, it throws off their draft entirely, because now they have to like ban it every game. That's true. Then you get what you want, which is like whatever's OP at the moment. Yeah. So that could be something like they're sort of testing out Gul'dan, seeing if they can make it work. Maybe they wanted to use that as a back pocket pick. Maybe that shows it's not quite enough.
Yeah.
It's also just
go ahead.
Practice with a little more on the line. Like, I think that's the nice thing, like the nice mindset to have if your Dig is like, this is just practice. You take it a little more seriously than Scrim, but to them it's still just practice. Yeah. So don't be too upset about it.
Well, let's switch over to North America, where we had the semifinals, or I guess it was the winner finals and then the loser semifinals this past weekend. So
what is going on with Gale Force? So that's all I'm going to say. What is happening?
I don't know. It didn't look like the normal Gale Force, right? The shot calling was completely different. It was their decision making, everything about their team was completely different. Like,
you can tell the dynamic is suffering really bad.
And they've moved Fan to be more of a melee. Fan was on Melee Heroes 3 out of 4 games, I think. I think he was on Vala once. I think Fan played Alarak, Vala, maybe Vala twice, and Illidan? Trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure he was frontline. Right? Almost
interesting distribution.
Yeah, but like, there were situations where it's like, okay, he's going to be in Tassadar, and he wasn't. So I remember finding that pretty surprising.
And it looks like they're sort of falling apart right now, which is really scary. It leads me to believe that they're like closing, maybe like changes going to be made soon. Like everybody's got to start wondering at this point.
There's a lot of rumblings for a lot of teams right now.
Yeah,
not just Gale Force. There's a lot of rumblings as to like what may or may not be happening, and I'm not going to speculate because there's a lot of speculation to have. But I do expect to see lots of changes going into 2017 season.
Yeah, it's crazy to see what where they were like a month and a half ago, and then all of a sudden like things seem like they're falling apart. And I think a lot of that speaks to how much once a team's chemistry starts falling apart, like how quickly they drop off and they look worse than they are. Because individually we know all those guys.
But when you change, even if it's like a shot caller change or whatever, like that changes a lot more than just chemistry. It changes the way that you need to approach everything, the draft, you name it. That's all, again, speculative, but
yeah, they need to figure something out though.
But something worth looking at. I mean, for us, this is like, this is a team that has some of the greatest talent North America has to offer. So it's worth taking a close look at and being like, okay, like what's going on with these guys and like where's that talent going to go? Or, are they just going to like stick it out for the long run and like get their stuff together? Like do some, maybe like take a little bit of like a break or something for like a week and like clear their heads. Like, they're at that crossroads now where they need to figure out what they're doing, because in the tournament, what was the big upset, right? Was the Guster Bust series. Mm-hmm. That's where everybody was like, whoa.
Now, granted, Guster Bust did play quite well. I got to give them a lot of credit.
They did.
But I don't think anybody went into that. And I know I didn't go into that thinking this is, Guster Bust's game to lose. It was Gale Force's game or match to lose. And the games were close, granted. Game 1 and 2 were very close, if I remember correctly. Game 4, maybe not so much. And they were back and forth, and they were really, really quite fun. But Brax's Holdout was the only map that like Gale Force looked dominant on. It just looked like they had a better understanding in general and the way they approach it, and they just kind of slapped Guster Bust down. They really did.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Gale Force doesn't look like, I feel like when we came out of PAX, I was like, wow, NA has like 4 really strong, even teams right now, and I wouldn't say that anymore. I would say the pack leaders are, by a long and far, Astral.
And they continue to impress and just look brilliant.
Yeah, like by a long shot. Denial didn't have Glowin this week, so having Handlebars subbing in versus Astral made that look like a big disparity, right? They played different. They were drafting weird. So that's not a big indicator in my opinion. I'm interested to see what they'll look like versus Guster Bust this weekend if they're at full power. Are they going to show? They are going to BlizzCon, so you don't want to give intel to the other regions. You really don't. So that's the same with
I
Astral.
expect them to look a little bit wonky.
For sure.
They're not going to show their hand. There's no way they will show their hand at this close.
Yeah,
because this is likely the patch we're playing on. Maybe one more small balance change. Maybe they tweak Zarya a little bit, but this is basically the meta I would expect to see at BlizzCon, and it's $1 million once again. So, but yeah, that's
so close. Dude.
It's finishing this weekend though. The Nexus game. So anybody that hasn't been checking it out, if you guys weren't even aware of it, the Nexus games will conclude this weekend on Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have Denial versus Guster Bust in a best of 5.
That is going to be such a good set to watch.
I think
that is a must watch. I think it's going to be really interesting to see Denial versus Guster Bust.
Yeah, no, it's going to be aggro. I hope
they took down Gale Force, and like, are we going to see a meteoric rise of Guster Bust all of a sudden, like looking monstrous? Could be.
I would love that. right? I mean,
Is at this point is Gusterbust like pretty convincingly top 4 NA? Like they've beaten Gale Force back to back, like in events, and
top four
I
at
mean,
events too.
yeah, like so. I
Were the
mean,
top four at Burbank as well?
no, wasn't Burbank Vox
Yeah,
got the
that
random
was
top 4
Vox.
spot or
Yeah,
something?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
some weird things happen, but like Gusterbust might just be like straight up top 4 NA. Like Gale Force has not shown that they still deserve to be top 4 NA. So
It's interesting
that's
because the
interesting.
fall of Gale Force, was actually coincided when they picked up Fan. That's the weird thing. Gale Force was
Yeah.
doing really well, and they brought Fan into the mix. And again, it's like I always say it's about the shot calling. They've had all these moments where it's like you can like see them arguing in their gameplay. They look like they're going to do something, and then they have that moment of hesitation, and it's crippling. It's like Heroes a lot of time it's moments that make that play, and if you hesitate for 2, 3, sometimes I've seen them hesitate seemingly for 4 or 5 seconds where they don't know if they're being backdoored or what, and that's just tough, right? So
Dunk, you know how that is, man. Like if anything is like weird in the comms and stuff when it comes to shot calling too, like if your shot caller is on tilt at all or like just acting off, immediately affects everybody on the team.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so many things that could be going wrong. It's hard to tell, and the
yeah,
meta has shifted so much over the last couple months that like there's I don't know, like it's hard to say that it's because of a roster change or it's because of shot caller stuff. Like, could just be the meta's not favorable anymore, or it could be like any of a million factors. So it's hard to say, but when it all comes down to it, they're not winning games like they used to, and it's not looking good even when they do. So they need to fix something.
I think it's just it I always look at a Fan as like a point of interest too. Just because he almost like exceeds the team that he's on just in terms of like his stature in NA as a player. Just because like pretty much everything Fan has touched has been gold. You know what I mean? Like throughout like his history in Heroes. He's done a lot of great things.
he's the most decorated player still, I believe, when it
Yeah.
comes to like Dorm and BlizzCons, and he's a very talented player in all fronts, and it's just weird. And again, I think it just comes down to like comms to some way, adjusting or whatever. And they feel different right now, so I feel like they've addressed that, or they're addressing it now. But time will tell because they're in a weird spot.
Oh, I certainly don't want to say that like I didn't want them to go to BlizzCon. I mean, like I wanted all the success in the world for them just like any other team, but I will say that with what's happening with them right now, I'm kind of glad that they're not the representatives for NA. You know what I mean? Like it's not like they qualified for BlizzCon and then this turmoil hit and they just started looking like way worse than they have been. So I'm so glad that like Astral is doing extremely well in NA. Like I'm proud of NA with this like serious force to be reckoned with that I feel like could actually put up competition at the global scale.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. But what else is going on? That's kind of the state of NA. Bit of chaos. I don't know if we're going to have a full roster apocalypse, but I think you'll see a shuffle. I really don't think there's a lot of time for a roster apocalypse because with BlizzCon coming out and who knows what happens, but a lot of teams, are looking crisper and crisper each week. Like Astral I've got a lot of faith in them. I mean, the Coffin Luck, we were talking about him in the cast. He's really, really, really stepped his game up recently. Like he just looks like a rock solid player. I used to look at him as like, just the Zagara. Like he's just they're doing well because Zagara's in the meta and they're banning Zagara. I literally said that at one point on a cast. Take those words back in a heartbeat. Right now, he looks infinitely better than he ever has. He's been super consistent all weekend in the Nexus games, and they'll be playing on Sunday in the finals. It's best of 7, starts at 9 Eastern as well. So it's a little late for Europe. Definitely late for Europe. That's in the wee hours of the night, but it's that'll give us our last glimpse before opening week, and then opening week is end of the month. 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it'll be BlizzCon with full-on chaos. Can't wait. But let's talk a little bit about BlizzCon and some of the other teams. One thing that's notable is, L5, the champions of Korea. They just got a new sponsor, Ballistics. Ballistics is actually, this is their first entry into Heroes of the Storm, I believe. And they have decided to join forces with L5. And the other cool thing about Ballistics is that's actually Diamond. ESV Diamond, he's been part of Heroes since Alpha. He works with Ballistics now. I think he's like their esports marketing manager. It's actually his title right here. So this is like their first foray into Heroes of the Storm. And wow. I assume he's the one that set this up. But by, joining forces with arguably the number one team in the world, Ballistics, welcome to Heroes.
That is pretty darn cool. I gotta say, like, just as a side note, that's good for ESV Diamond. I mean, he has been around since the 2-arc, original 2-arc days, pretty much.
He's been around since the beginning. He was on TownHall episode 8 or something. Like,
that's so cool. Wow. Well, good. I mean, like, L5 getting a sponsor, they deserve it. They're gonna keep doing great things, hopefully, now that they have a little bit of backing and support.
They're not name changing, are they?
I don't think so.
It's just like a sponsor. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Title sponsor or something, probably.
Proto announced new title sponsorship of L5. Yeah, so I think they'll just be called L5, and they'll have like Ballistics jerseys, basically. Like that'll be like the premier jersey on them. It doesn't say. Oh, they're giving away a bunch of gear and a Ballistics jersey signed by the whole team.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Oh,
you can enter that jerseys. Giveaway at ballisticsgaming.com/promo/hots-team.html.
Oh, they will be Ballistics at BlizzCon. Nice.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see it on the announcement page, but that's cool.
Yeah, I'm bad at reading. So, shout outs to Diamond though. That's hype. That's really hype.
It's kind of funny to have a Korean team be sponsored by Ballistics, because that sounds like such an NA organization name.
Yeah, it does.
Like, it's not like an SKT or something where you like actually immediately think of like a Korean team. It's kind of funny.
And you look at like the announcement, it's from Idaho, which is about as American as it gets.
Yeah.
Well,
the new Idaho-based Korean team, yeah.
The dream. They're going to love to eat all the potatoes.
Oh, man.
But BlizzCon, yeah, I mean, we're not going to talk a lot about esports. I mean, that's pretty much the update. Nexus Games wrapping up this weekend. That's the last real thing. Then it's just going to be the calm before the storm. Next week, we have potentially kind of a cool series of guests joining us, so we'll keep you up to date. But we're trying to lock something in fun, as that'll be the last show of like the coverage before opening week. Maybe, I don't know if opening week starts on Wednesday or what. We got to figure that out. But I got to look at the calendar, match it all up, and see what makes sense. But there might be like a quick maybe they'll have release groups prior to 2 weeks from now. We can like take do like a preview show or something. But we gotta sort all that out very soon. I think that pretty much covers this week's news, though.
Yeah, I think we nailed it.
Nailed it. I'm really cold. That's why I'm just like, get me out of here. I need to turn the heat on and get a hoodie on. I'm in the basement. We're gonna remodel this really soon at my house. Well, you guys know. You guys are just here, and we're already planning our reno for this winter. But now that it's starting to get cold here, like you guys got out of here just in time. It is getting really cold, and this basement becomes an ice chamber. So I got to buy like a space heater.
That's actually so nice though during events.
No,
like,
it's
things
nice
are cold
if there's a lot of people here, but when it's just Nerd Jake by himself in his basement, freezing his butt off in my little basement
there's not
studio.
Enough nerd warmth in the basement right now.
We need to snuggle together. But once we get like new insulation put in and all that jazz, I guess turning the heat on would also help. But
yeah.
Okay, but alrighty, well, let's transition to shout outs
with the kitties.
Oh, the kitties.
I'll keep you warm.
Yeah, KO was hanging out with my cats one morning during Bloodlust. KO was sleeping in one of the guest rooms near the kitchen, and he's like, Jake, in the middle of the night, your cat jumped on a table and just started knocking everything off.
Like, I was, because I had like direct view. If I like sat up from my bed there on my mattress, I like could see this table, and all of a sudden I just hear this like crash, and I like look out there, and the cat is literally just pushing one thing after another, like in systematic order, just
at like 5 a.m.
Like, really getting off on this. Like,
he's an asshole
amazing.
Sometimes, man.
He's just like, is this food? Nope. Crash off the table. Is this food? Nope. The mug, just break it off the table. That was a good time. He must have been like so hyped sitting in the corner watching all of the commotion. He's like, there's going to be so much stuff to play with.
Just about. Usually he doesn't actually break things, which is nice, but oh well. KO, let's shift over to the shoutouts.
Well, you guys can find me on twitch.tv/KO, my youtube.com/KO, where I do all kinds of analytical type videos. And then, at TempoKO on Twitter. That's about it for me. Thanks for having me, guys.
Are you streaming after the show? Am I going to be hosting you?
I sure will be streaming after the show. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Nice. Dunkus.
You can find me on Twitter at DunkTrain or twitch.tv/DunkTrain, and should be some cool stuff happening in the near future. Can't wait.
Choo choo. Solid Jakega somewhere. That's what a guy named Pallytime calls me, at least. And yeah, that's just follow Arcane8. You know, we've got an Arcane8 Twitch now. I guess it's my one big announcement. It's twitch.tv/Arcane8. I think on my Twitch, I'm actually on the Arcane8 team page. Is that a thing? I think that's a thing. So you can also check that out. Because there will be a bunch of stuff coming up. We're going through a big transition period right now. I'm still trying to figure out, what's going to happen with TownHall. Realistically, it should move to the other channels, but I just might keep it here just because, right? It's got until the Arcane8 channel is a little bit bigger. My YouTube is pretty small, but my Twitch has a following that I don't want to lose. My YouTube, I was like, whatever, let's just move it to Arcane8, and I didn't message it. And apologies for that once again. A lot of people weren't even aware that the show had moved. But my YouTube, I've always kind of neglected because I'm a Twitch baby, man. I love my Twitch. But yeah, some cool stuff coming up. We got a lot of plans. Bloodlust was, I know I told you guys it was a big hit, but we're getting through the whole wrap up process of a lot of the other small details and paperwork and all this stuff, and how did we do and how can we grow it, how can we do better. The other big aspiration is doing content for Heroes Brawl that's not esports. Heroes Brawl will never be esports. It changes every week, but we do want to. I see a lot of value in Heroes Brawl for being something where we incorporate people like Chew8, he doesn't play pro, right? But he is good at the game. So we find content where we can pull in a bunch of different personalities, celebrities, make these very fun matches from all different types of players, and even maybe pull EU people in because it's doesn't have the same restrictions. It's yes, they're still going to be paying, but I really want to try to build weekly content for Heroes Brawl every week where we do like a show matchy thing and X people are invited. So hopefully we get spectator slots for that and we can make that a thing. But that's the other big thing that I'm looking at for the sooner end for Arcane8. And I'm going to go find a hoodie. I'm going to get warm. I'm going to eat some food. And thanks so much for tuning into 123 and Dunk and KO. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Man. See you guys in a second. When you host.
Go to KO.
I was gonna be like, I'll see you guys next time, but then I realized I'm like, no, I'll probably see you guys in like 10 seconds from now.
All right, GG's. Welcome here to TownHall Heroes.